So maybe you're thinking, well, what's the right way to give a toddler choices? How many choices? What sort of choices? I've got you covered. Remember, it's freedom choices within limits. So we get to decide what they have choices about. We are older, we are wiser, we have life experiences, we can predict consequences. So it's up to us as the good authoritative leader to limit the choices, to only present good choices to the child, and to know when and where and how to give them. So here we go. Number 1, try to give them choices every day in regards to toileting, to food, to freedom of movement, and to sleep. So toileting and a freedom of movement, we're really going to want at the toddler age to give them a whole lot of freedom in those areas. If we're doing any kind of coercion, manipulation in the toileting area, it can lead to a lot of unhappiness for both the parent, caregiver, and the child, and it can lead to unhealthy situations actually. So we want to give them a lot of freedom in that area. Also, freedom of movement. So we don't want anything restraining their freedom of movement from the time they're a little infant all the way forward. We want to give them freedom of movement a lot, but both in toileting and freedom of movement, there are going to be some times where we're just going to offer limited choices. Now with sleep and with food, we know more about health. We know more about how important it is to have a good night's sleep and to have good eating habits, and we know the consequences of that. So we're going to give less choice, more limits when they're little, and less freedom. And as they get older and can see the consequences, the cause and effect of not eating or sleeping right, then we'll give them more and more freedom. But at this toddler age and preschool too, we're teaching them what that is still. They don't have the knowledge to make those good choices on their own in those areas generally. So when we offer the child choices in those categories, toileting, freedom of movement, food, and sleep, they feel more confident, they feel more in control. Also, we want to be consistent about giving choices, the sort of things we're giving choices about, and how often we're giving them those choices. So for example, you might decide at breakfast, you're always going to give them a choice of which fruit they want. You might also always give your child a choice about what pajamas they're going to wear while they sleep. You can give them a choice, do you want to hold my left hand or my right hand while we cross the streets? So there's a limit on freedom of movement too. But not everything in their life is going to be a choice. You're not going to let them choose every food they have for lunch or every food they have for dinner, right? Limited choice, and maybe even limited to one meal. And especially if you haven't given your child a lot of choices up until this point, you'll want to start adding these choices in gradually. So try to give the same amount of choices every day. You know yourself and your lifestyle and how many opportunities there are to give a choice. But if you're giving your child a dozen choices a day, then try to stay about a dozen. Don't have one day where you're not giving any choices, and then the next day you're letting them choose everything. That's kind of switching between the permissive and authoritative parent back and forth, and you want to be consistent in your parenting style. So toddlers feel more confident when they're consistently being offered choices, when they consistently get to have a say about what's going on with their lives. Now, with the young toddler, we're going to want to give limited choices. With a 1 and a 2-year-old, even a 3-year-old, it's simpler and easier for them to process to just give 2 choices. So, do you want an apple or grapes with breakfast? Do you want to read this book or do you want to read that book? Because just like adults, they can get decision fatigue too. So giving a choice of 2 options is pretty simple to do in all kinds of scenarios, and it leads to more confident toddler Now, sometimes the toddler won't make a choice, and in that case, what we do here at school, and I encourage you to do at home, is say, okay, if you're not going to make the choice, then I get to make the choice. Okay, so here's where you'll have to do a little thinking in advance and decide, okay, if I tell them, now I get to make the choice, and I make the choice, but then they go, oh, no, and they make a choice, are you going to say, no, you didn't make the choice, so I get to make it, which is hardest in the short term and best in the long term, I would say. Or once they start saying, oh no, I'm making a choice, are you going to say, okay, and then give them their choice? So whichever way you're going to go, just be consistent, because they're going to learn that's the real deal. Okay, I don't really have to make my choice when he offers me the choice. I can make it as he's opening the refrigerator and grabbing the yogurt, and I'm changing my mind and saying I want cheese. So whichever way you're going to do it, just try to be consistent in that way. And if you know that your child just takes longer to make decisions, you might let them decide right up until the last minute, and then they can still exercise that choice. But you know yourself, you know your child, just whichever way you go, just be consistent in that regard. Also, it's very important that you offer sincere choices. So we don't want to give an insincere choice of something we really want them to choose and something we know they'd never in a million years choose. So even a young toddler can recognize, although they might not be able to name it, they can recognize an adult who is being insincere or maybe even a little bit manipulative, and that does not help the toddler feel confident. All right, thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. That helps other parents and caregivers find this video more easily. And comment below with any knowledge or tips you'd like to share with myself or with other viewers. All right, thanks for watching.